Hello, class. This is Mr. Weckesser, and this is chapter 1.4 Solving Equations. In last section 1.3, we learned about PEMDAS. With equations, we're going to learn something the opposite. It's called SADMEP. When you solve equations, you solve opposite. You do subtraction addition first, which also can be inferred as on top of each other, division and multiplication, and then exponents and parentheses. Equations have different than expressions because they have equal signs in them. So remember that. Equations also usually look something like as simple as x plus 2 equals 4. And when I say do the opposite operation, this is what I mean, opposite operation. Let's discuss opposite operations, which we discussed in 1.2. We have plus is the opposite of subtraction. We have multiplication, which we're going to do. One of these guys here is the opposite of division. We also have multiplication looks like parentheses and division looks like a fraction, right? Like n divided by 3. And we also have the opposites are x squared and the square root of x, which we won't do much until another couple chapters of these two. So right here, the opposite of x plus 2 is x minus 2. Another thing you need to know about equations is what you do to one side, you do to both sides. So you subtract on both sides. So x plus 2 minus 2 is nothing. And then on this side of the equal sign, when we say other side, we mean the equal sign is your line of scrimmage. So the x comes down here, and then a 4 minus the 2 equals 2. So x will equal 2 in this situation. And we know it's right is when you put 2 in for x. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. So 4 does equal 4. We know we did that right. And we'll discuss more of this as this chapter goes on. Review. Circle the equations here. This one has an equal sign in it, so that is an equation. This does not. This has an equal sign, so that is an equation. This one does not. Vocabulary builder. Related words. Opposite and reverse. Main idea. Inverse operations undo each other, and we just discussed that. Inverse operations are minus 2 and plus 2. Another one are multiplication, division. Use your vocabulary. Write each inverse operation. What's the opposite of add 7? Subtract 7. Subtract 4. Add 4. Divide by 5. Multiply by 5. Divide by 3. Or multiply by 3 is divided by 3. Then we have properties. And again, like the other properties we discussed in chapters 1, 2, and 1, 3, we are not going to memorize these, but we need to know what they kind of mean. Reflexive property means A equals A. 5 equals 5. Symmetric property is if A equals B, then B must equal A. So 4 times 2 is 8, so 8 equals 4 times 2. Transitive property, if A equals B and B equals C, then A must equal C. Substitution property is if A equals B, then you can replace A and B and vice versa. All right. A lot of stuff there, but again, we do not need to memorize that stuff or the information right here necessarily. Reflective, symmetrical, transitive, and substitution we're going to go through quick. And then key concepts, again, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They have the properties of equality right here, more of them. We don't necessarily need to memorize those. We're going to skip over those quickly. And this says, write the properties that justifies each statement. And this looks a lot like geometry, which a lot of you guys did not like. So we're not going to spend much time on things you do not like. We are going to go down to simple equations so we can practice some of those. Problem 1. What is the solution of 12b equals 18? First, we need to make sure you know that 12b means 12 times b. So this is 12b. 12 times b equals 18. Second, to solve an equation, you must do the multiplicative inverse. of 12, which is 1/12, right? So you can multiply each side by 12, right? Or you can do the opposite operation, which we just learned. So this whole thing down here, please do not write down. This is not the way I like you to learn this or do this. Right here, this is not good stuff. Let's learn a better way. 12b equals 18. We're going to do the opposite operation. There's a lot of work here for no reason. We're going to do the opposite operation to make it easier for you guys. The opposite of 12 times b is divide by 12 on each side, right? 12 divided by 12 is just 1b on this side now. That's our goal when we do equations, is to get the letter by itself. 18 divided by 12 is going to be 3/2. And that is your answer, 3/2. They showed you the multiplicative inverse, which is showing you that 12b equals 18. You can multiply each side by the inverse, which is 1/12, and you get 12 divided by 12 is 1b, and 18 times 1/12 is 18/12, which equals 3/2. My way over here, much simpler. Do that, please. Problem 2. And again, we're going to do our own work. This is a really, really, really long problem. And we're going to skip this one because they're showing all these justifications like geometry. And we do not want to go over that because it is not necessary. We are going to do couple more problems like the ones from the before. So before we had 12b equals 18, right? And we solved that by dividing by 12 on each side. And you got b equals 3/2, right? Let's do another couple. Let's do 12 plus b equals 18. What's the opposite of plus? It's minus. So it's minus 12 from each side. You have b by itself now, which is the goal of the equation. And 18 minus 12 is 6. Now let's do another one. Let's do 12 minus b equals 18. Hold that. Let's do b minus 12 equals 18. What is the opposite of minus 12 is addition on each side. So b is going to equal 18 plus 12 is 30. And you can actually cross things off if you wanted to, because negative 12 plus 12 is just b, and 18 plus 12 is 30. So we've done multiplication, which is division. We've done addition. We've done subtraction. We got one more. We got, how about this one? 18, right, on this side. In this side, you have, let's say, b divided by 3. 18 equals b divided by 3. And we're going to say, oh, how do I do this one? This one's impossible to do, Mr. Weckeser. Oh, no, it's not at all. So what is the opposite of this? This is saying divided by 3. The opposite of divided by 3 is times 3 on each side. So you're going to times this by 3. So b divided by 3 times 3 is just b. And then 3 times 18 is going to be 54. So we've done all 3 types or 4 types of simple ones. One more I want to show you before we go on. You might see one like this. X squared equals, let's say, 16. In order to solve for x, you need to do the opposite of squaring, which is square rooting. So you need to square root each side. So now x is by itself because square and square root cancel each other out, and the square root of 16 is 4. And you could put this in your calculator like this. 4 squared equals 16. And that is correct. The end of this chapter, problem 5, we're not going to do. And because we did some of those other problems, your homework's going to be like the problems I gave you, the extra ones. The lesson check just says, suppose you can solve an equation and find that your school needs 4.3 buses for the class trip. Explain how to interpret this solution. And let's do a real life situation of 4.3 does not make sense as a solution to this problem because you can't have 4.3 buses. If you need 4.3 buses, what do you need to do? They need a whole number, correct? So they're saying that you need to justify this by saying you need 5 buses. That makes sense, hopefully. I know I went through this very quickly, this chapter, but this should be a huge review from Algebra 1. We talked about equations, we talked about solutions and inverse operations, right? Multiplication and division and square root. How do you rate? You can solve out equations. How do you rate that? Well, let me know, and we will go through that.